Mike, how you doing tonight?
God bless you, Paul. I am doing okay, Pastor.
Thank you.
Doing okay.
Well, good.
Everybody hold on.
We're holding on.
I
mean, this has been okay. When you and I, the last show we did was last Friday because I was on the road. And just after we got done with that broadcast, Mike, it broke loose. I mean, it was within a half hour, the attack, a horrific attack on Israel. Yeah. And so I know you've been busy for this last week because of that. Can you tell us what this meant to you personally when you seen the things happening?
It's not a good situation, and it's what really got me was the pride and arrogance, how badly it blinded many nations. That's one of the biggest issues and problems. Mm. And it's still going on right now. It's still happening. I think that people are so self-absorbed and they have their personal agendas that they can't unify at a time where, unification is going to be do or die. It really will be. And they still won't do it. They won't do it. They have some sort of some root of bitterness that's beyond belief, causing a massive separation within our government. And of course, if our government can't get it together, who else is? Who else is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So
we have
we got a state of alert. I mean, what does this mean? What's this
because
mean?
They don't know, because it's totally caught them off guard, right?
Okay.
And in fact, it was just, I know all the rumors out there. For example, they said that Benjamin Netanyahu just ignored it. No, he didn't. In fact, when he came back, he expressly said that something just like this was going to happen, and he was trying to halt it. But they, of course, everybody got in his way. Everybody did. All the experts said it was not, nothing like that would happen, this, that, and the other. And, well, of course it did. And now we have another problem. Right now, this Hamas dealing, is one thing. But here's a greater issue. We have Iran sitting over there, right?
Right.
We have elements of Hezbollah that indeed helped out Hamas in the planning of this. And the reason why Hezbollah is not being spoken of is because they're directly sponsored by Iran. So if they get involved, we have to get involved, right?
Yeah.
We have to get involved by way of our army. And
troops.
The clock is ticking.
I mean, are you saying we already got some ships in the water and we got planes, I think, moving? I'm sure we got some more assets moving I don't even know about. Are you saying we have to fully get involved?
If Hezbollah is going to go forward with some more of their operations, we will have to get involved, because Hezbollah is known around the world as being an extension of Iran. That will involve the USA directly. Right now, it's somewhat passive because it's just Hamas. But of course, those weapons that Hamas has is, we have that's a pretty bad issue. To date, they have not used some of their up-to-date technology. And of course, they have a big stockpile. If they do, it's going to overwhelm Iron Dome. It's just not going to work.
So what do you mean by technology? You mean Hamas has better technology?
They have up-to-date missile systems. Oh. When I say up-to-date, I mean up-to-date. Patriot systems and the laser interceptors and Iron Dome and some more, defense systems are up and operational. But they also have tech that can weave in and out just as well as Iron Dome tech can. So they haven't used that yet. If they do, there are going to be lots of places hit. So if Israel puts a heavy hand upon Hamas, they're going to react. And if they do react, it will incorporate Hezbollah. Hezbollah is going to be incorporated into that. We already know that they were part of the planning of what was happening.
Yes.
And if they get involved, the USA has to directly get involved. That will start a ground campaign, an air campaign, and because of other elements like Russia, like Turkey, sporadic places in Syria, things of that nature. We can't do what we want to do. Remember, Putin still has that entire area covered by an early warning system. So he has radar coverage of just about the entirety of the Middle East.
Wow.
And
does he have air superiority?
Sure, if he wanted to express that, right, militarily, he absolutely could. He's got the entire place covered. And in 2015, he finished his defense net over Iran and large portions of the Middle East. And that is a Russian system, right?
Okay.
China helped out also. And remember, these guys have microwave weapons mounted on their aircraft and microwave shields. I know it's not very familiar with people, but they're not familiar with that. But a microwave shield can effectively cause a missile to, kind of start tracking ghost objects if it wanted to. It's also very dangerous in proximity to other aircraft. At about 3,000 to 5,000 feet out, they can concentrate in the bubble of that microwave to any given area. That's China's technology. China also has stealth fighters, and they match us as far as our tech and theirs. Our passball, the bluff, if the U.S. is bluffing at any stage, it's about to be tested.
Wow. Are you nervous? And you okay, you're a little nervous about this. I can sense it in your voice.
Well, they did not, like I said before, they were blinded. It's one thing to have a political, governmental civil war. It's another to silence military commanders due to political views, right? Because you want to posture in front of the people, because lives are lost. See, it doesn't matter if Israel is in a bad predicament. They are right now. They're in a bad position. But you also have innocent people who have nothing to do with these military operations.
Yes.
There have been a lot of people lost, and they're not reporting the people who have actually been lost. If they did, the entire world would be outraged. It would cause too much of a reprisal.
So are you saying over in Gaza right now that the death toll there is really a lot higher than what's being reported?
And Israel.
And Israel also?
Yeah.
Really?
And Israel.
I mean, Israel's reporting 1,300 dead and 3,300 injured, but you're saying that death toll's higher?
Yeah, it's higher than that. Yeah, of course they can't report that because that would be irresponsible. If you report a high death toll, you're going to essentially motivate certain bases, which will begin to respond themselves, right? Because of outrage. And so they keep those numbers down to a tolerable level based on, whatever's happening.
Okay. Should we see now what Joe Biden did come out and condemn this? He did. He also said, I'm going to send more arms right here. I'm going to send more arms to Israel before the expected Gaza invasion. So that means he's doing that right now. And then he refroze the $6 billion. Is the reason he's making these he's backing up in some of the things he has said. He's doing some things that we didn't think he would do. Is it because this is a very serious situation right now?
Yes, it is. It is. It's very serious. You're looking at a country who essentially right to their north has a very large stockpile of chemical biological weapons next to nuclear weapons. If it came down to the two, right, chemical biological is more dangerous than nuclear weapons, right?
So you're saying there's chemical weapons right now, right there close in the Middle East?
Oh yes. They're in Syria. They have them in Turkey. Of course, we had one of our bases in Turkey, and all assets have not been taken out of that pod yet. So there's still a lot of deadly weapons there. Jordan, same thing. They have some very high-tech devices, which are uncommon, unspoken of. In fact, hardly anybody knows things that are over there. Israel, of course, they are a hub to a degree for high-tech things. They have an underground base also. And if they already know that if Israel begins to take heavy blows, they will not hesitate to break relationships with everybody in the Middle East and retaliate. If Israel is ever pressed into a corner, they will obliterate quite a few places over there. Now, understanding this, Iran understands this. So if Hamas begins to give a heavy barrage against Israel, they already know what Israel is going to do.
Yeah.
And what that means is, if they begin to do this, Iran's going to have no choice but to go all in. That's when the Hezbollah units will begin to activate out of Lebanon and other places like that, and they're going to go for broke. Now, keep in mind, if that happens to them, we, the USA, have to be neutralized. We have to be neutralized.
Whoa! Now wait a minute. Neutralized? That's not good.
Yeah.
That's okay. By who? Who's going to neutralize us? The Russians?
Well, Iran has that capability.
Really?
China has that capability. North Korea has that capability. So if we get a bombardment at the same time, which probably will happen, nobody can go into Jerusalem and do what they want to do with the USA, still in power.
Right.
So we
You're
have
right.
to be effectively neutralized before that takes place. And it's just not a good situation over here because we don't have good accountability of who's here in this nation. We simply don't.
Let's talk about that. Is that part of this state of alert for America? Right now, there's a state of alert in America for every major
Yeah,
city.
it's very real. It's real.
So you're saying part of the southern
real
border, this onslaught of military-age men that have come across the border in the last 2 years, and before that maybe, is really a serious problem, a dangerous problem.
Sure it is. Prior to that, there were sleeper cells they lost count of. Prior to that, there were Spetsnaz troops here in America they lost count of. They don't know where they went. There were lots of legal immigrations, but here's the problem with legal immigrations. Once you have an individual whose faith is of a specific type and they're loyal to that faith, should war break out, they're going to be faithful to their homeland, not the USA, which is a big issue. There have been countless petitions to get that altered, and a person becoming a citizen, that they would have to kind of assimilate into what we have, not us assimilating into some foreign mechanism. But that didn't happen, and so now effectively what you have are legal U.S. citizens who are loyal to the Middle East. Right? So we could soon see for the first time Sunni and Shia Muslims together doing operations. That what defense does anybody have against that? Because France is going to be out, Germany is going to be out. They're essentially overrun right now.
Yeah, they are.
So you have those countries are going to have to deal with quite a bit, which means what help will Israel have if this takes place? And they already know this. They already have that intel, right?
Yeah.
This is when people start messing with Israel, it truly is a doomsday issue for the entire globe, not
really
just
is.
for Israel. Yeah.
Because Jerusalem and Israel is such a key. This is the most important place in the world as far as all the nations are concerned, as far as God's concerned, as far as all the principalities are concerned. The control of Jerusalem is the control of the world. Jesus is going to set up a kingdom there 1,000 years. There's others. Lucifer would like to do it and beat him to it or take control. Am I right?
Yeah, he would. He's gonna have his time to set up his kingdom at some point, Pastor Paul, which is one of the unfortunate things. Yep. And the timing of when that actually happens, that's one of the questions in the air. But what we see happening now is how that can actually take place in a very short amount of time, right? How the initial steps can actually take place. That really will set the earth. That'll tilt the earth big time as far as balance of power and everything else is concerned. So with this alert that we have in America right now, it's because they're unsure of the allegiance of citizens within this country.
Wow.
You don't know who's loyal
you don't.
to who.
No.
And you can't go by race. You can't do that. There was a recent, it was kind of like a survey, but they don't really ask people. They calculate things based on conversations and things of that nature. As far as people being loyal to the Islamic movement, you wouldn't believe that the numbers are incredibly high in America, right?
Well,
that means they're sympathetic to the Islamic movement, and they are indeed against Christianity when it comes to any type of if a war broke out. They would not be loyal to the Christian movement.
We're seeing that, aren't we? We're seeing that.
Yes.
I mean, already these demonstrations, and not just the demonstrations in the streets, but we got college students, we got Harvard, almost like and we got Congress, members of Congress, who are just, it's unbelievable. There's Christians that all of a sudden jumped on the other side and are screaming and hating on Israel and hating on me and hating on everybody else. I mean, what's going on here? Are you saying that people's true colors really start to come out?
Well, of course, they're becoming, everything hidden is coming out to the front. But a lot of these people, they utilize Christianity as this, it's almost a comfort practice. Mm-hmm. That's it, right? So when it comes to, laying down your life for your faith, they're not going to do it. They're going to swap sides. And it really shows you how many people are potentially, just going to freely accept a mark or go to any other plan. They hate democracy. A lot of professors, a lot of people, they think that democracy is a failure. They do. They don't see a republic. They don't see that. They believe in an open world without borders. Now, this is something brand new. When universities put together a set of books that describe and do set up a world without borders, right? Yep. Keep in mind, this is the same way this nation got started. They're doing it again. And in fact, let's take it a step further. They already have the documents. They have an entire system set up, Pastor Paul, that you don't call this America. You call it something else. It is a global community, right? And the UN is called something else. But the books have already been published. The computer systems have already been finished.
What?
The architecture has already been done. People have already been named and talked to about positions in this brand new system.
So it's a new shadow. So there's this hidden shadow government that's actually going to become the government, world government, and people have already been chosen for certain positions and ministers and kings.
Oh yeah, they have. They have. And I know that's shocking, but you have people right now who absolutely know they're going to have a position in this new thing. Now, what does that tell us, though? That tells us we're not looking at way down the road. No, sorry, it's not going to happen that way. No. Because what they put together looks like implementation could take place in the next 6 months or so. If they wanted to, they could do it in the next 2 months, really. Because some of these people are not young, but they've taken on a brand new position in a brand new system, right? So there you are right there. They're going to absolutely, and it's payrolled. In other words, it is
the money's already set
everything
aside.
Is set up. Oh, it's set up. The assets, the gold, the silver, all these
computer systems,
the precious things are in there. They're ready. The networks, a new cabling that goes underneath the ocean, the brand new satellite and comm system, which is why they want people to switch to these titanium Apple phones, right, real quick. And they're not advertising what's inside. They're swapping everything over to AI right now. As we speak, everything is going in with a new AI architecture right now.
Mike around the world's with us tonight, folks. Blowing my mind right now. But what you just said is they've laid the foundation. I kept thinking they're in the process of laying the foundation, but you're saying they've already laid the foundation. They've laid the tracks. The train is on the track, just waiting for the engineer to pull the trigger. Yep. So, so now let's talk about Damascus here, and we'll come back to America, because Damascus, there's prophecy. In Isaiah chapter 17, it says that, Damascus will be no longer a city, but will become a ruinous heap. Do you think we're on the verge of that scripture? I do. It won't take too much. I mean, what? A couple of more, hits, and that's the end of that city. Damascus is in bad shape. It's in really bad shape. Parts of Damascus would take at least 50 years to get back up and running again. So for the most part, Damascus, the greater part of Damascus is a heap. It is a heap. It's a heap, and it will only take one small scrimmage to finish off the rest. Who do you see Israel doing this, or do you see America doing this, or who do you see? I just see a conflict. I really do. I see a conflict, some air Saudis, and it's going to be a lot of missiles flying, because once it starts, once a missile is launched, pretty big missile is launched, and they already know it's going to do damage once they have launched detection,
right? They know what they can and cannot intercept. They know what's going to happen when it hits the ground. They're going to calculate what they have to do based on that. And at that point, they already know it's going to be large-scale damage and casualties, right? So from that point, everything escalates pretty fast.
So is this like a tactical nuke, kind of, or a mid-range nuke?
No, in fact, Pascal, there are munitions that are not nuclear that can almost do do just the same damage as a nuclear weapon. There are brand new weapons out there that are based in a very different technology that are far more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapon is nuclear, yes, it leaves radiation, yes.
Yeah.
They probably will use those due to the amount in the Middle East. They probably will, but there are some other technologies out there that operate based on, well, I guess you could say resonance, which means they can shake apart the molecular structure of anything around it, right? Essentially causing things to melt.
Wow.
Causing atoms to, kind of just fall apart and then reassemble or whatever the case is. So that wouldn't be bad. They have a weapon that affects all soft tissue, which means any living person in proximity of that explosion, all soft tissue is going to melt. So soft tissue would be any tissue that is
flesh.
That is, it has liquid in it, high percentage of liquid, like your eyeballs or something like that.
Oh, that's nice. Your tongue and your eyeballs.
Nasal cavities.
That's in the Bible, actually.
Cavities. Well, they have them. That weapon is real.
Okay, let me ask you a quick, wild question, but who's the most dangerous guy right now in the world? Right now, with all this stuff going on, who is the one guy right now that's absolutely...
I'm pained to say it. I'm pained to say it because it may not make sense. I'm pained to say it. I'm not going to say Putin. I'm not going to say Putin.
No.
Because a replacement is coming for a couple of people. So I can't use those.
Okay.
Some of the most dangerous folks are the ones we have not seen yet, the ones that we don't know yet.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
The ones who have not taken a position yet. Those are the most dangerous individuals.
They're waiting in the wings.
They are. Yep. They're very cold, callous, extremely cold and callous. So I wouldn't. The players that we've been dealing with, they're more like they're kind of worn out, as you can see.
Yeah.
And when they start being replaced, everybody will have a better understanding. But then when the new people rise, here's what I believe: when these new people come forward, I think that it's going to trigger something within people. They're going to know something eerie or
is
odd
it because they're going to be more aggressive? This is a new breed. This is another level of aggressiveness, murder, not afraid to annihilate or step on people, ruthless. I mean, and it's
well, they're going to be bold.
Okay.
But I think that in general, people are going to have a different feel for them. You know how when you see it, some people that you see, you have a strange and odd feeling about these people, right? Sometimes you can't shake it. I think that's going to be quite strong with this new group coming forward. I really do. I think it's going to be very strong. I don't think anybody's going to make a mistake and think that they're just no ones, right?
All right.
But it's going to be quite different. These folks they operate under a different power altogether. But they're coming forward. I also believe that when they do come forward, things will be altered. Everything that's not altered will be altered by force.
By force.
By force.
Do you find it kind of strange that we don't have a Speaker of the House?
No, really.
I mean, but the timing of it. I mean, it happens.
It is. Well, yeah, that is odd, isn't it? I don't believe in coincidences. And these guys that are waiting in the wings and these operatives they're going to take full advantage of America's inability to make snap decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're testing this time, this incursion in the Middle East. This will test the resolve of NATO. It will test the resolve of America and Israel. It will test relationships. And believe me, these guys are constantly gathering information. What they did, they surprised everybody, right? Because what they did was they sat back and watched everybody and how they operate and what makes them move and what makes them stop. And evidently, they did their homework because when they moved, it caught people by surprise that they didn't know how to react. right? Now, we potentially have a much worse situation here in America. That same thing that's happening in the Middle East, people may want to make sure that they're well acquainted with what's happening there. Because if that happened over here, I do believe it's going to happen over here. When that takes place over here, Pascal, that's not going to be a good thing.
Okay, so are you saying what we just saw in Israel, you think this same type of terroristic, murderous
I do.
is going to happen in the United States?
I do.
Because the enemy's already here. They're embedded.
Yep. They have high positions.
Are you worried about tomorrow? Is that a possibility tomorrow?
Well, this time around, right? I'm not too shaken.
Not yet. Okay.
Not too shaken. When we have activity over here in America, as far as, for example, you have CEOs, lots of them. You have people in high positions, people in key positions with everything in our communications box and power plant box, right? And life-giving infrastructure box with gas and oil and water and all those things. You have key personnel who own these facilities, right? They can act at any minute. You don't know who they really belong to. It's not because it's not common for the government to snoop around any corporate entity. Everybody knows that if the government snoops around a corporate entity, then all those who snooped could just be wiped off the payroll, right? The one thing they won't mess with is the corporate world. They won't do that. They've tried that, time and again. It does not work out well. So, in fact, the true power in this nation is with the corporations.
Okay.
It is with those who have the greater influence. And it just so happens you have a lot of foreign entities who have come over here and bought up everything.
Saudi Arabia, I mean, they're buying everything. I mean, Mohammed bin Salman and his family, the royal family, right?
Yeah, they own quite a bit. In fact, we can't survive without a relationship with Saudi Arabia, which means they have to be absolutely and totally removed also.
So they're like in the way, along with the United States.
Yes,
from those who want to rule the world. I say from Jerusalem. Wow. What about Elon Musk and the technology and the wealth and the controlling of the space and the constellation?
Well, I know what people would want, right? I know what they would want, but he is somewhat of a savant.
Yeah,
but he hates with a passion. He hates, death and stuff like that.
Yeah, he don't like that. No,
he hates it. He's turned down more defense contracts than anybody who's ever existed. He's just taken penalty after penalty because he refuses to develop, certain weapons and things of that nature. Yeah. He's not the most engaging person in the world,
right.
And he says a bit too much sometimes. But him, I really don't worry about him. There is another I do worry about.
Okay, who's
there?
There
is another. That's a big-eyed guy.
Big-eyed
right?
guy.
The other guy, the Facebook fella.
Oh, okay. You always pick up on that guy. I mean, so let's talk about Mr. Zuckerberg. I mean, if he's got Facebook, and he's now moving into Meta, but he hasn't diversified as much.
Yeah, that's what people don't know.
Okay, okay.
They just don't know this guy.
What is he doing? What's he doing out there?
He by himself, right? He's not like anybody else. He by himself has the ability to move things forward in a very swift way. He has developed something as far as VR that if the average person hated him, they would still utilize VR for that reason, right? Mm-hmm. He's gonna be right in the front of communications here shortly.
Right.
He's also leading in this AI adventure, right? So a lot of people don't know that. They don't know that.
Yeah, he is really. He's actually. I know that there was this Sam Altman guy, and him and Musk, got Open AI started and all that. But Zuckerberg really has really never laid off the hammer, has he? He's kept his foot on the pedal the whole time.
He'd be more like an architect and a scientist behind AI.
Okay.
Musk and all these other guys, they assemble components basically, right?
Yeah.
But Zuckerberg is a bit different because he sees things in a very different way. For example, the way people watch movies, that's going to change in a couple of months. Just 2 months. It'll change
because of virtual
months.
reality. He's going to do something different with television
because of AI, right? Channels like CNN, ABC, and all that stuff. That's going to be dust. There will be customized programming, right? And it's already a fact that screens are going to be too slow. Because they found a way to directly interface, right, with your optics, which can pick up faster. In other words, you can watch a 2-hour news program in about 10 minutes and retain everything, right, with no implants, and none of that stuff. And the way we used to watch it by television, that's going to be outdated. That's going to be outdated. They also have, and when I say customized, I mean this. Imagine your family you're sitting down watching a movie, but your kids see one thing, you see a different thing, your wife sees something else, and whoever else, they see a different movie because all of it's been customized based on AI. You all see the same movie, but
you see
plots and parts and everything else is going to be different based upon your likes and dislikes.
So in other words, let's say the family's sitting there watching a movie. It's the same movie with the same plot, but you may focus on certain things differently than someone else in the room. So whatever that area you're focusing on may become more
on the fly. On the fly. For example, like if a person does not like profanity, right?
Okay.
No profanity will be in the movie. If you don't like if it irritates you to see certain types of things in movies, they just take it out. Now, what this will do is cause a brand new audience to start watching television. As a consequence of watching television, more and more people are going to begin to assimilate with ideas they never had before. This is going to happen this way, Pastor Paul. In other words, every single Christian out there is going to find themselves highly unbelieving of why so many people are changing their ideologies so quickly. And I'll say it again. If you watch a movie and you like that movie is going to inspire something in you, right? It always happens this way. So imagine if the audience of that movie was everybody. And then the parts you like and the parts that you key in on, and we're talking about on the fly, right? So actors and actresses change. And just to shorten this, AI has already, it has the capability of writing a 2-3 hour movie in about 15 minutes. That's with the music, with the actors, with the dialogue and everything, and the orchestra, the scores. It can do that on the fly. And as you watch it, it can change it based upon your likes and dislikes.
Unbelievable.
Can you imagine entertainment period being this way? That means a person would fully engage. They would fully engage.
Yeah. If I don't like the way Clint Eastwood ended a movie, I just say, let me watch that again. I don't want Dirty Harry getting shot or Josie Wales or whatever the role he's playing. In other words, you can alter the
to be altered based on what you like and dislike. But they already know what you like and dislike.
Okay.
In detail, right? Yeah. Since you've been using devices, a person, right, cannot breach your privacy in all ways, but a machine has all your data.
Yeah.
All of it. A machine knows what all of us like and dislike. So it's going to become a very different world.
How far are we away from this? I mean, this is going to be.
We're already there. We're already there. We're already there. We're not. It's done. It's finished. We're already there.
Do you have you've seen these, Mike? I mean, I know you got that. You got certain computers. I mean,
in fact, they have. Everybody's going to see it. I believe in about a little under a month. They're going to be little. I don't know what you call them, but
the trailers,
like a movie where you can actually customize, where it will actually customize based upon the person, right? Marketing and advertising, all this stuff, it's going to change. Everything will change. Everything is going to change.
This is
They
crazy.
can take a picture of you, right?
Yeah.
The pictures that the average person has on Facebook, they only need 3 pictures to recreate you in AI. Now, what that means is, suppose you were having a meeting with someone, this will blow your mind, and you put your glasses on. You sit in a room, but you actually see the person in real time, and they see you in real time, and you're talking to each other, and it happens that everybody in the first 40 seconds or so, they forget it's VR. They totally forget it's VR. We're not talking about the big bulky headsets either.
I know.
Nope.
Something like almost like glasses, like I'm wearing.
Yeah, they have something different with that, and it's because it's also immersed in reality, right? Because computers now with AI can track everything in your house, so that what you see in your house becomes part of that computer projection.
Okay, so everything is let's see if I can get this. Let's say there's four people sitting in a room. They all put these little glasses on. And all of a sudden, it's not just me looking at a virtual reality situation, but all four of us see the same thing. We're all in the same.
Yes.
Oh yeah. No, that's.
So you hand a piece of paper to the other guy, right? If you want to, and he can see it, and it's very difficult. You can't even tell that you're in a VR environment. That's how spooky it is for most people.
Whoa.
Yeah. And it tracks everything: eye twitches, hair movement, mouth movement, everything.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm starting to grasp this. I'm starting to understand how powerful that is and how dangerous that is.
How influential.
My Lord, have mercy.
That's going to consume people's time, right?
Yeah.
In the meanwhile, there are going to be certain elements that position everything in the world. And unfortunately, people are going to be so immersed in this stuff. And before they say they won't, they need to backtrack to the cell phone. Because when cell phones, before they turned totally digital, I remember conversations, and I thought the same thing about cell. I said people are going to they're not going to look up anymore after a while.
No, I know they walk around like this.
They're not going to look up, and they do. They look down. They're totally immersed in the technology they said would never have them. A lot of Christians, when cell phones came out, they didn't like the cell phones.
No,
they did not like them. But you don't hear not one Christian is protesting a cell phone. You don't hear it. You used to hear it, but you don't now.
No.
And this is what I'm talking about. Technology is adaptive, and if it becomes part of our world, we just incorporate and keep moving, right? We kind of assimilate things and keep moving. Well, this is dangerous in the time we live in because people barely have the Word of God now.
Oh,
and
my Lord.
There are subtle changes in the Word of God, right? And once you have that in a picture, right? Once you can start to rewrite what a person actually how they feel, because they do have machines. AI can tell if you're enthusiastic behind something, if you're being moved behind something, and it will begin to alter its content based upon how you feel about it. And yes, it can interpret your feelings. It knows exactly what you feel. It knows if you're genuine or not.
Yeah.
It knows if you're telling the truth or not. And so you can't get around it. It knows your intent. So think of a world that will be like that. Where's Christianity going to come into play? Because Christianity is totally against the flesh, and people have a hard time with that right now.
Right. So AI is already rewriting the Bible. AI is now delivering sermons like in some churches.
There are 3 Bibles out that are by AI, Pastor Paul, and people are finding it fascinating. Look for one of them. You can look for them now, I believe. There are 3 Bibles out there that have totally been rewritten by AI.
And people are fascinated by it, and they're going to read and see what it says.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And so more and more we get drawn away from the truth.
Yep.
Let me ask you a question. Some of the couple things I didn't get to, and that was people are concerned about this weekend. Should churches, should mosque, and should temples be on alert this weekend?
Yeah. Yes, they should.
All 3?
Yes, they should. Yes, they should. Especially in because if you notice, this action in the Middle East was not to make a statement. Normally when you take hostages, you have demands, right?
Yeah.
Well, there have been really no demands. There have been people who have said, why don't you meet our demands? Come to find out they had nothing to do with the main purpose behind whatever they did. And so because there's no real motive to this, right? They are just brutalizing people. People ought to be very watchful.
So they have not requested anything other than if you come in here, if you make a ground move into here, we're going to kill these hostages and put it on television or online. That's all that's the only demand they've given us.
No negotiations. No. They've tried to do the prison swap thing twice. It failed. 3 times it failed. And we have more over here than they had over there. In Israel, those guys were over there for years. They didn't do anything until they began to coordinate. Can you imagine being best friends with your next door neighbor? And then all of a sudden you find out that this guy belongs to something else. Pastor, that's absolutely going to happen here in this country.
So there's going to be hostages.
It's going to happen right here
in America. Country. People are going to start getting abducted and held hostage or killed and murdered by they could if they activated every sleeper cell in the United States. We'd have total chaos, and then we wouldn't know who our neighbor is. Because we don't know our neighbor anyway, and so we don't know are you good or bad, and everybody's got a gun, and so this could be absolutely chaos.
That's right. And that's what they would love to do that. If that ever happened here, and it will happen here, we would effectively be crippled. And at that time, they would go ahead and do what they have to do with Jerusalem based upon their own faith and ideologies. Because we would be tied up. We'd be totally tied. If we can be tied up off politics to where we can't make military movements. I mean, a balloon flew over this country, and people just looked at it.
Just stared at it.
The government said, what is that? Well, what do we do with that? Well, I don't know. Ask somebody else what they're going to do. They didn't know nobody knew what to do. The Republicans, the Democrats, nobody knew what to do. And it's all because of pride. Pastor Paul's pride. I tell you what, Republicans out there are really about to be disgusting. Now, before anybody says anything, I don't placate to either party.
I know. Yeah,
but if I would lean strongly towards conservatism.
Right.
Right. I'm not a liberal guy, but anyway, they're not going to be happy with what's coming up. They are not going to be happy, but they're going to have to deal with it. But at least they're going to know who they've been dealing with. See, that's one of the things is that in this small season we're in, we get to see who we've been dealing with.
Yeah. And
it's not going to be pretty.
No.
It's just not going to be pretty. And but as a consequence of that, in the Bible, there are prophetic things that must take place. They must take place. And we just so happen to live in a time where they will take place.
Amen.
Right?
Now,
and it's going to catch people off guard. It will.
Now, China's been very quiet in all of this. They're not condemning. They've been very quiet. Are they gearing up to make a move?
China made a statement about Taiwan, right?
Okay.
They're not going to give up that idea. They're not. China is expanding.
Yeah,
we might as well go ahead and face it. They are expanding big time. And when they decide to expand anything in their way that legally shouldn't be there, they're going to remove it. And every day that goes by, they only become stronger, right? They don't have the internal turmoil. They try to make us believe by way of propaganda. Because if you go back to the COVID-19 days, you would think that China was totally done for. But we know that's not the case, right?
No. They
have more ships, as far as their Navy does. They have more ships than we do. They also have AI. They've had AI for some time now. And that is very troubling. It's very troubling. They have their own network, internet, and everything else. They have surpassed most countries in a lot of areas because they were hungry. It's almost like before anybody ever got their first apartment, they were hungry to get that apartment.
Right.
After a few apartments in a house, they're no longer hungry for an apartment or a house, so they're not working towards that. So they kind of can relax, right? Unfortunately, we're not really taught the discipline that relaxation can often lead to the grave, because if we don't stay hungry for something, our performance goes down. We're not as innovative. We start getting a little slow, slothful. The same thing happened in Israel in the Old Testament. They did the exact same thing. And we've done that same thing. We've gotten too comfortable. These other countries remained hungry, right? They are, think of it this way, they see us as the element holding them back. And they want to break free of that. The only way to do that is to overcome. Anybody who's stronger than they are is to become more wiser and stronger than the one holding them back. That's precisely what they have done. That's why nothing stays on the top of the ladder for long. Everything that's on the top must be abased. It must go down to the bottom. And America's been on the top for a long time. Let's go ahead and face it. As a whole, we have forgotten who our God is.
Oh, sure.
You don't even hear people. And it really gets you in government, because you don't hear anybody in government saying, none of us could have done this without Christ. You don't hear that.
Yeah, I mean, obvious.
They use that word God, but here's my deal with God. They could be talking about any God, right?
Yeah.
If
that's blasphemous
they don't
when you
talk
do
about
that.
Christ.
No,
right?
they
If they're
won't.
not talking about Christ. They're not depicting the God that I serve.
They're actually just saying God in a generic way that way they can hide and not
That's
have
right.
to be and have
That's
to
right.
make it a bold proclaim Christ. There's no two Jesus Christ. Okay, there's one. You can cloak everything under the term God, and so that's what's going on. I mean, it's
right.
That's why they hate Jesus. I mean, every time you see somebody start speaking Jesus on television, whatever, man, people are scrambling. Yeah, they're scrambling to try to get them off the air. So yeah, it's coming down. So so we're in a new world. This attack that happened in Israel and what's about to take place. This is a war. Would you say this isn't a conflict? We've moved into a war, and it looks like it's a regional war, and maybe even bigger. Would you say?
Yeah, I believe this is part of that. This will expand. I have high confidence this will expand. This happening right now opens the door, and everybody should pay attention to how these guys are working, right? Become familiar to their tactics, because we're going to have to deal with that here in America. They're going to have to deal with that in Germany fairly quickly. They're going to have to deal with that in the UK. But the difference is this. They fire rockets at Israel. They're going to blow up nuclear power plants in our neighborhoods. They're going to blow up nuclear power plants in the UK. They're going to do the same thing in Germany, to the best of their knowledge. Right now, there's you could call it a sub-alert on the power grid right now, right? There have been spots in the power grid that have already been hit, right? There are a few power stations down. The power companies have been working overtime to get things up, and they're thinking about, they're going to have to get Northcom or somebody to go in there and start to get some hard defense into these power stations, because if they continue to do this, they're going to wear down the system. They're also they're working on the telecom system. As people should have noticed in the last 3 days, there's been something happening with the internet service providers all throughout the USA. And so there are active hacks and active incursions taking place. I wouldn't be surprised by next week if another big company or some big operation is compromised. And of course, we are in those days. So it's coming.
Do you worry?
It's not going to pass us up. It's coming.
Okay. Now, you mentioned nuclear power plants could actually start melting down because of sabotage by these sleepers. Do you worry about water systems being poisoned, and all of a sudden 2,000 people die in one city just because the water was poisoned overnight?
Absolutely. But especially these bigger cities, right? I have no doubt that people who live in these big cities in the near term are going to do everything they can to leave them. All of them.
Yeah, they want
every single last one. They're going to leave those cities in droves, because without warning, they're going to start losing buildings. The collapses and cave-ins and everything else. Pastor, there are a lot of operatives in this country. They are at work.
So, through sabotage, you're saying buildings will start falling down, things will start collapsing. And so the sleeper cells are everywhere. So
yes, they are.
Breaking news, everybody. State of alert in America is not just a few demonstrations that may take place tomorrow. Maybe a few people get shot or killed or run over with a car, or all kinds of weird stuff could happen tomorrow. But that's not the real state alert of America. Is that right, Mike?
Right.
It's a whole lot bigger than that.
That's right. Yes, it is.
Could planes just start crashing, falling out of the sky?
I'll tell you what.
Bad maintenance?
We have a couple of objects coming by, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
I think that one of them has some debris with it, which will it's a high probability we're going to see some atmospheric issues.
Okay, so let's say this binary. So okay, let's just say that Planet X is coming, bringing a few moons with it. One could be Nibiru, closer than the other. I'm just saying. Are you saying that it's going to start affecting air travel?
Well, it will.
Why?
The more this stuff comes in, right? Think of it this way.
Okay.
We have the ionosphere.
Okay.
The ionosphere is hot, but here's the problem. the particle density is just not there, right? So it's 5,000 degrees, but there's not enough density to carry the heat from particle to particle. As more particles come in, and that's about to be exponential, our atmosphere is going to heat up big time. It's going to cause and it will cause a red hue everywhere. So as it comes in, our atmosphere is going to capture all this heavy debris. It's going to compound itself. It's going to get hot. It'll get hot. I know that people would just love for it to be normal, like it's going to be. It's not going to be normal. Things are going to change abruptly without warning. The winter's coming. We're going through some changes in the wintertime. I'm hoping that some of the particulates do not decide to settle during this winter, not this wintertime, because that wouldn't be good.
Well, you called last summer. You told us in February it was going to be the hottest summer we've ever seen, and it was. So are you saying that this is going to be some kind of weird winter, or maybe not? Or
yes, a very weird winter.
What? Hot, cold, windy, tornado?
Well, the shears. For example, suppose it's minus 21 day, right?
That's cold.
And the next day, it's 74 degrees.
No way. No. I mean, maybe.
Also,
okay,
the blizzard conditions like the wind, we're going to see some pretty high winds this winter, right? Now, for one thing, our ground cannot take the moisture anymore. I hope that everybody is aware of this. The ground is pulverized from all the moisture. The infrastructure cannot take the moisture. So if we start seeing, and we likely will, large amounts of snow, and suppose it gets hot, next day or day after, and all that, 5 feet of snow melts in one day. That's a huge flood, but it will refreeze back into the ground. And what happens is ice expands, right? When it gets into the ground, it's going to expand. And when it does that, it's going to rip apart pipes or just shred everything, because they know for a fact, especially in Canada, that all the pipes and everything else are being strained. Steel is cracking all over the planet for some reason underneath the ground. It's all over the planet is cracking. The saltwater intrusion continues, and that will further degrade what's underneath the ground. Here in America, we have oil lines and gas lines and everything else. Pennsylvania is about to have a brand new problem, right? Ohio is about to have a brand new problem.
What kind of problem is that?
A gas problem. That'll be a underground gas and coal problem they're about to have.
Methane or something?
Natural gas and coal. Natural gas and coal. But you're not going to hear it. Nobody's going to find any information on any alarm, any warning, anything. You watch and see if it doesn't happen, and then everybody jumps and starts to react to it. That same thing will replicate itself across the USA and across Europe and all these other places, because the temperature shears that we're having all over the planet, Pastor Paul, are costing us big time by way of the integrity of the ground itself. It is virtually tearing everything up.
Is that because of the magma rising to the crust? I mean, to the
that is a big factor, and also we have changing conditions in the entire solar system.
Okay.
Right? The sun's light is altering, causing temperatures to fluctuate. Patterns are changing on the Earth. We will see a jet stream reversal. We will see magnetosphere is going to give us an example of what happens when some sort of destabilization event strikes. People will respond by way of their health to disruptions in the magnetosphere. Right? So if people are on edge now, they're going to totally lose it when this happens.
Yeah, because they won't know what in the world to do or how to manage it or how to protect it.
They'll be angry. They had an experiment one time where they took people underground. It was a university who did this. They took people underground. They had the Schumann resonance underground.
Okay, yep.
Everybody was normal. Past ball, they cut it off. And not more than an hour, you had some people throwing up. Some people had flu-type symptoms. Everybody was enraged. They couldn't control their anger. And then when they did that for an hour, they were trying to talk people down. They found it impossible. When they turned the Schumann resonance back on again, everybody was calm within 10 minutes. Within 10 minutes, they all recovered. So what do you think would happen if the frequencies the natural frequencies of the Earth were disrupted due to some damage in the magnetosphere. These are real consequences we're about to face.
Well, we might have the zombie apocalypse. I mean, everybody might just freak out on each other and violence and you know what I'm saying? Are you saying that why does it affect the brain? Is it the pressure?
Because we're born here on this earth, right? So then biologically, we're highly tuned to the environment itself. So every frequency that's in nature is also in us, right? Just like electricity, electrons, protons, and all these elements are within us. And so when they begin to alter, we begin to feel it. Magnetite in animals, once that's disrupted, they're going to go to brand new locations. And we should see that here again, by December, we should see animals behaving very strangely, oddly, dogs and cats losing direction. That should have actually begun by now. Like, can you imagine dogs walking around with Alzheimer's, like they can't remember where they were going? So that would be a dog jumps up. He's about to run outside like he did 1,000 times, but this time he stops. He looks around. He didn't know where he is, right? He's just confused. And then he goes back inside, only to catch himself and then, kind of ask to go back outside again. We're going to have issues like that because our biology in the human body is intimately tied to every single system in the earth. If it changes, we change.
Mike, I hate to shift right now because this is such a dynamic discussion, but I have to ask this question: if and when the IDF make their move on the ground into Gaza, I just don't understand. I mean, this would be an urban nightmare. Okay, there's probably booby traps. There's probably snipers everywhere. I mean, wouldn't we have an absolute bloodbath? Is it even? Do you think they're even going to do this? Are they going to send in like 50,000 troops on the ground?
Well, the reason they would do that is to secure the people they're not talking about, right? If they didn't have the hostages they had, it'd be easy to do an air sortie over there and hit every strategic target they had. Unfortunately, they have an advanced tunnel system under the ground. All the while, they've been negotiating. Now, everybody should hear this. This entire time, they have been negotiating, right? To be a part, to be reassembled with Israel. All that time, they have built a network of underground tunnels, facilities underground specifically for war. They have all sorts of munitions and everything else lined down there. They have wired up the entire city, right, to respond to wartime situations. Why would you do that if you were trying to negotiate? Why would you build an underground network to fool and to grab people, right? Because some of these tunnels go right into Israel, and they're not even sure where all of them surface at, which is a big problem. Yeah. Because they know that certain people were taken, but they weren't taken from their front doors. They were taken from inside the house.
And then taken right into a tunnel. Come out.
That's right.
Pulled them right in.
That's right. So the soldiers will have to go and they're going to have to check, element by element to see what's there, to clear areas, this, that, and the other. That's going to take a long time. In the meanwhile, we also know if they start doing this with overwhelming force, that, they have 250,000 high-tech missiles they have not launched yet.
Yeah, sitting over there in Lebanon that Hezbollah could fire down. Plus, won't the United Nations and the world start to turn on Israel if there's
already did. Yeah. They already did. They're going to get them in two ways. They're going to say, number one, that was irresponsible because you had hostages, and they're going to get killed if you start going in there, right? Yep. Number two, the world will never see. If Israel launched a BB gun over there, they would say, well, that's just too much.
That's true.
That's too much.
They're never going to be.
No matter how many people die in Israel, they're going to say that's too much. And because the truth is, they are against Israel.
Yes.
All the countries of this earth are not standing with Israel. They're just reassuring the people that they're going to tolerate Israel. What they've been doing is tolerating it. They by no means stand by it.
No.
And that should be, they really, not even on paper, because they're handing over Jerusalem That's an ongoing process to hand over Jerusalem and have different powers come in and control it. But we know they're going to eventually take that by force.
42 months.
That's going to happen.
The Gentiles will trample Jerusalem underfoot 42 months, 3.5 years. It's going to happen.
And you know what's troubling about that?
What's that?
That means America's going to be non-functional for
Yeah.
42 months.
How close are we to that, Mike?
My. Well, Pastor Paul, as you know, they have, for example, the temple. They have rapid planning for the temple.
Yes, they do.
You know about the temple.
I know that.
They also have, there's a coalition of nations that have already agreed that if war broke out, they would go in and seize Israel, right? If a war broke out, they're going to do that. That's a primary objective. If a war breaks out for any reason, that's what they're going to do. So what if they did that and then allowed the building of the temple under different authorities?
Yes.
Right. Now, that would be an abomination. Now,
it would be. And that's kind of how I think it will end up being built.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Jesus, Yeshua, has to come and put an end to that. But, wow.
And then we're over here in America in bad shape. I don't think I think a set of natural disasters is going to happen. We will have a water event. That's coming.
Yeah. That
hasn't come yet. That's coming. And I hope that people are ready for that. Above all things, I hope they're ready for that. That will be devastating. By water.
Wow.
It's going to be devastating.
Wow. Mike, we're going to let you go, but before you do, I know we got this webinar tomorrow night. I did an interview with you. It was phenomenal. I'm still, my jaw dropped on the floor. Should people pay attention to what you had to say in this webinar?
Well, I hope so. Yeah. I do hope so. I know certain things are difficult to hear sometimes.
I know.
But when it happens, whoever heard it will be armed with what is truly taking place, because things have gone much further than what we suspected.
Yeah, and you explain that in your segment of this webinar, and so I appreciate you doing that. You spoke very freely and very powerfully, and it's caused me to do some serious praying on how in the world am I going to get the job done to get people to Christ before it's too late. It's a challenge. I appreciate you.
Well, Pastor Paul, God bless you. We'll keep persevering, brother.
We will. Thank you for coming on tonight, being with us, and sharing. It's been really amazing, and I appreciate it very, very much.
It's always an honor. Everybody be safe. God bless you, Pastor Paul. See you next time.
God bless you. Amen.